How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. And don't worry, before you get too worried for my safety, despite being quite a degenerate gambler and whatnot, I'm not nearly degenerate enough to be a Raiders fan. This represents the chill that Europe is going to be experiencing this winter. I got this out of the storage unit, and besides, I would never cover up the hair. But yeah, we're seeing increasing amounts of bad news come out of Europe in terms of what likely they're going to experience. And the interesting thing to me now, and what this video is about, is that the governments over there, specifically Germany, are starting to tell people that they need to be prepared and whatnot. And we haven't really seen what I would consider to be any kind of panic as a result of that. I think when they trickle this stuff out, it doesn't really affect people and they sort of get into this normalcy bias. But the German government is amassing cash, which is what have I been telling you guys to do. It says, this is from the financialtrends.com, which I'm not too familiar with that website, but it says, Germany amasses cash in the event blackouts take down payment systems. Interesting. What have we been talking about? I remember even myself and JJ and Che were talking about this stuff 2 years ago, that this is something you need to do. And this says, Reuters has reported that German authorities on Tuesday are moving to acquire emergency cash deliveries to keep their economy running in the event power outages take down electronics-dependent methods of payment. This has always been something that I don't think enough preppers have dealt with, and that is keeping cash on hand. I always try to keep a little bit of these Federal Reserve notes because mostly I need them for, I do junk sales locally, I play poker, so, you definitely need some cash here and there, but I also have it for preparedness reasons. And I've said before that no matter how bad a disaster is, almost without exception, there's going to be a period where most people don't yet realize how bad it is, or haven't really thought through the implications of how bad it is, and this lifelong conditioning to view money as valuable will still be still be in their brain, and they'll be willing to accept money for things that they shouldn't. Even if you've watched my review of the movie Panic in Year Zero, really old shit the fan movie about a nuclear attack, there's a scene where the family recognizes something's happened. They're in a small town outside of LA somewhere, and he buys up all this stuff and he tells the guy, here, word of advice, don't sell anything else, close up your shop. And the guy's like, what? This will be my biggest day ever. And he's like, all right, just a word of advice. And that will happen all over the place. Yeah, sure, people will be gouging on prices if they realize there's a disaster of any kind, but they will be accepting cash, or at least a lot of people still will, for something that actually has use, and they'll be taking cash, which could be completely useless in a few hours, days, weeks, whatever, depending on how serious the event is. So everything from, minor power outages can cause you to need cash, like we mentioned here, and up to major events. I still think something like gold and silver, and I have a cool silver bar here for you. Check out this one. It's a recent acquisition. This silver bar, my camera does not like to focus, might be more universally accepted in massive disaster scenarios long term, but short term, if there's a power outage, even if it's due to something like a nuclear attack or EMP, if you walk up to someone at a grocery store, gas station, or even a private person and you try to trade them silver bars for their stuff, it's probably not going to work. But if you walk up to them with a few $100 and you're like, hey, they know what that is, they're still going to be of the mindset that this will eventually be over, and now I'll have $200 for a 5-gallon can of gas or whatever it is. So I do think that there's going to be a period of time, almost in any scenario, where cash could be useful. Now, that's not to say that you should just keep cash and not have preps, because why not just store all the stuff that you would be buying with cash? But you're never going to be able to store everything that you could possibly need in every scenario, or as much as you would want, and you might not realize exactly what it is you'll need. And also, you don't want to spend all your money on preps, because then that completely ignores the possibility of there not being a disaster scenario of any kind. You have to remember to prepare for normal life type stuff as well. So that's why having some cash on hand is useful. And you don't want to do a whole lot because we're in such an inflationary environment, but I do think at least a month's worth of expenses is probably a good benchmark if you can swing it. And that's a month of expenses in physical cash in hand, not in your bank account, not in a money market account, not space on your credit card, because that stuff might not be accessible anyway. Like we're just seeing that the government is officially, it says that noted as cash is of special concern for Germans who value the security and anonymity it offers and who tend to use it more than other Europeans. That's interesting. And it also makes me think that in certain areas, like I probably here in Vegas, are going to have a lot more cash than others. So it sounds like Germany already uses more cash. Vegas specifically, and tourist areas, especially ones that involve any sort of vice-like thing like that, are going to have a lot more cash on hand, for the gambling, the dispensaries, and all these other cash-heavy businesses than other random big cities. But still, there's not nearly enough. Most people, even out here, do not carry enough cash to get them through a day, let alone a month. And when everyone needs it, you might be able to get some sick deals or at least function and buy things that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to. Because even if the power isn't completely out in a widespread way, if internet or connectivity is out, then these payment processing things won't go through. Everything now uses the internet. So even if you could theoretically pump gas or anything, you might not be able to submit payment. So cash is going to be super useful. So I definitely think we're seeing, all sorts of warning signs in terms of there being possible liquidity crises and bank issues and power issues. So it's never been more critical that you guys have some cash on hand, whatever you can swing. And like I said, I think a month is a good benchmark, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's enough or might be too much. But I think it's hard to imagine a scenario where you can only use cash and it lasts an entire month without getting to the point where cash is worthless. Because if it lasts longer than a month, cash isn't probably going to matter anyway. So a month is a good benchmark. But if you feel comfortable with more than that, it certainly isn't a bad idea. Because like I said, there could be a lot of deals early on in a scenario like that where you might be able to buy up a lot of stuff that you need super cheap if people need cash. Not just what you need for your daily bills, but other people need it so badly that you might be able to buy up, if they want to sell some guns, if they want to sell some gold and silver, sell off one of their used vehicles because they need to liquidate something for cash. You could get some massive, massive deals if you have the extra cash to spend. But you don't want to spend out of your basic, monthly budget fund and then not be able to pay your bills in cash. So, might also be something to look into, which I probably need to do. Contact maybe like your mortgage company, your utilities company, maybe prepay some of that stuff, or at least ask them, like, in the event that the power's out or something happens, especially if you're in Europe, what's the protocol for getting payment to you? Find a way to maybe mail it. If you can, you probably can't mail cash usually, but maybe some kind of cashier's check or just at least get it in writing from them that if you can't accept payment cash, that they're going to delay it and not give you late fees and all this other bullshit. So let me know what you guys think. If you see this becoming more of an issue, if you think this is just a precaution, or if it'll actually become a problem over there. I definitely think that they're going to have power issues, and so this certainly could be an issue. Seems like Germany at least is taking some precaution, but I mean, that's just the government for the most part. Most people are still going to not have enough. I know Survival Lily posted that they're starting to get government notices, she's in Austria, about storing food. 10 days, they said, I believe is what she said, which is not enough, is what she said, and I agree with that. But it's very interesting that they're telling people to store anything. So I'm not sure how typical that is for her area. It's definitely atypical for here, barring the usual FEMA just standing advice to have a 72-hour kit or whatever. But to be told by I feel like our government here is a lot more wary of causing panic and will not give us any notice ahead of time on most things. The occasional weird nuclear protection PSA from New York City notwithstanding. But let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.